This episode of the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast is brought to you by Patreon and the Gentleman Scofflaw merchandise page. Go to gentlemanscofflaw.com. In the menu, click the support or shop links to help support the show.
You are listening to the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. Listener beware.
Rise and shine, the liquor store is open. I ain't got time for moping. I best be on my way. Well, I still got time to save my reputation. Time to go day drinking in this dirty little town.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast, your podcast for the Rebel and the Renaissance Man. I'm your host, Jordan Crowder. Co-hosting with me in person is Donovan Fowler, and co-hosting all the way in the Great White North is Johnny Boy. How you guys doing?
Doing awesome,
Well,
man.
You guys are
how
good?
are you fine fellows?
I'm good, but we gotta start off with the housekeeping.
Oh yeah, we do.
We always do.
Housekeeping.
What are you drinking there, John?
Stella Artois again.
Stella Artois.
Always a
Yeah.
solid choice.
Always a good standby.
Yep.
You get a big case in the fridge, and you polish one back a week, and it lasts you 24 weeks.
It's like it's like the character from Seinfeld, the public library. Who doesn't have coffee? You leave it in the pantry. You get some instant coffee. You leave it in the pantry. It never goes bad. You remember that?
Mr. Bookman.
Mr. Bookman, yeah. He's like, you wear a pair of shoes when you enter the New York Public Library. Anyway, I don't know why that made me think of that. What are we drinking here, Donovan?
Easy 90s reference from Jordan Crowder. I'm currently imbibing from some Evan Williams, which is always a good go-to, which I think you are as well.
Yeah,
It's,
let's do a little
slancha.
Slancha.
And I also have an empty can of Simpler Times.
Empty can of Simpler Times. You were pre-gaming.
I was.
What do they? Do they say that? They say that in Quebec, right? Chin chin. What does that mean?
Chin chin.
Is it a French thing?
I don't know,
No, I
but
think
it
it's a
sounds
British
vaguely
thing.
racist.
It sounds like
It is. Well, the French are racist. We already know that.
It kind of sounds like a British thing, maybe like
Yeah,
chin chin,
chin
darling.
chin. All right. I just remember my mom always said it. And I am smoking my Peterson Red Dublin Sherlock pipe, and in it I've got some Throgmorton Cellar.
I don't know what you just
Who's
said, but that
selling it,
sounds
the
both
Frog or
awesome
Morton?
and frightening.
Throgmorton. We've talked about
what's
this.
the deal with Throgmorton Cellar? I'm smelling some different
It's like
aromas
it's
here.
like it's what they call. I could be wrong on this. So if somebody's a pipe smoker and I'm wrong, but it's an English blend, but I believe it's what they call a Balkan blend, and I don't know what the deviation is with that, but it's like it means that this is like an English blend that has a little bit of a whiskey aromatic. Like you could see there's like a whiskey barrel stave in the jar.
Nice.
And that's supposed to season it and make it taste like whiskey, but it's got the Latakia, which gives it that kind of, dare I say, funky kind of barbecue kind of smell to it.
Everybody knows that whiskey and tobacco go very well
Everybody
together.
knows Donovan prefers
Whiskey.
an aromatic cherry.
I
had to bring it back.
There you go. There's another
Taking us
callback.
back.
Let's. So what's going on in your guys' weeks, John?
Well, this week we're gearing up for what they're calling the E-race. So Montreal, through no fault of the citizens, has decided to have a race for electric cars to, I guess, bookend
Sounds
the
pointless.
F1s earlier in June.
So this is supposed to counteract it somehow, like
I
it's like
don't
a
know.
carbon
I think-
neutral.
Let me ask this:
Nobody
how,
asked for it.
How fast do these electric cars go?
2?
I was gonna say they can't go more than 50 miles an hour on an electric. I could be wrong.
I just
don't know.
imagine-
But
I'm really not sure, and I don't think people in the city really care enough to find out. It's kind of bookended the summer where we spent $40 million on 25,000 imported Italian twinkle lights for a bridge.
Yikes!
wow, gosh,
So,
your
yeah,
tax
we got
dollars
money.
at work.
That's right.
One thing I remember about growing up in Montreal though is Is it June or July? Is it in June when the Grand Prix is? Is that when it happens?
Yeah, that's right.
Because I remember back in elementary school, we'd go to class and the windows would be open because it'd be June and it was that time of year, and you could hear all the cars on the racetrack doing the Grand Prix just over on the island.
See, that's why I don't understand. I went to the Long Beach Grand Prix recently, and it's an awesome feeling to hear those engines and be so close to them. I mean, not great for your ears, but it really gets your heart beating. And to think about that replaced with the electric cars,
well, here's the difference, right? Think of what F1 cars sound like.
Yeah.
Replace that with here's what an electric race sounds like. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew it was coming.
I don't hear anything, John.
I knew it was coming.
I don't hear anything.
Or it's going to be like that. Like whenever you hear like an old cartoon car, where it's like.
It's just going to be clowns. Are clowns driving these cars? Is that the deal? Because I don't see any self-respecting racer.
Well, it's funny. You're speaking of cars. This week I had to rent a car for some shoots. And I picked up my rental in Glendale. My rental car. I ended up getting a Kia Soul, which actually was pretty cool little car. I thought it was a fun little car. But so I show up to the address. I ordered it through Priceline. I'm like, "Where's the rental car place?" It was a budget rental, and it turns out it's in the actual Hilton in Glendale. So I have to go in there, go in the back, find this little kiosk, and I go through the paperwork or whatever. Super nice guys, which I don't know if you guys know, but renting from a lot of rental car places, a lot of those guys are kind of sleazebags. They're always trying to upsell you. Yeah. They're always trying to, but these guys were didn't do any of that. They just took my Priceline booking. It was great. But then they give me this little map and they're like, all right, so you're going to go down in the garage and go down these floors. You're going to make a right here. You make a left here. You're going to go. And so like, there's all these directions to get to where the places where my car, where I'm going to rent it. So I start going down the floors. The elevator only goes so far and then I have to walk the rest of it. And it's about maybe 11 o'clock in the morning. Garage is completely silent and very dark. So it was like I start going down the rungs, going down kind of the spiral downstairs. And for some reason, like there are 3 levels and it's all cars from the 20s through the 50s.
Wait, no way,
just
really?
Sitting there in the dark.
Oh, but you know what? I bet it's storage.
I bet it is, but it was so weird. It was so silent. It was dark, and it was all these old cars. It felt like a Twilight Zone episode.
So now I know where to go if North Korea launches an intercontinental ballistic missile.
Yeah, but it was like so weird. Like I had never experienced anything like that. It was silent. Nobody really else was around, and I'm just walking, hearing my footsteps with all these kind of like ghost cars sitting in the garage. And then I come to this. Finally, get to the little budget rental place.
Henry Ford is waiting for you.
And there's this guy that has like the gate open like in this little corner, and on it is a big framed picture of the Pope, and then there's this little like
a
framed picture of the Pope.
Oh my gosh.
Which Pope?
The current
Francis.
Pope. And
the
then,
new one.
And then there was like on the little gate, like the, what do you call it? Not chicken wire, but like the chain link, like that's holding it up. There's a bunch of like different polo shirts up hanging up there. Like this is like, I guess his uniform, where he changes his uniform, and a little like used like computer chair that had a Better Homes and Gardens magazine on it.
Oh my gosh.
It was the weirdest experience.
Sounds like this guy's living the life.
He is, yeah.
Sounds like the janitor in Die Hard 2.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It was really funny. It was quite an experience.
Wait, wasn't that guy all about like tapes or something? Didn't he have like music or something?
He had records, lots of records.
Yeah, that's what it was. I haven't seen Die Hard 2 in so long.
But yeah, it was, I don't know. I thought it was like such an interesting experience. Like it was the most interesting rental car experience I've ever had. Because usually you go in, you're like, which car do you want? And I'm like, I want the one I ordered on Priceline. Like, yeah, but you like any of these? I'm like, no, I want the one that costs, $140 for the week. And they're like, okay, you want the insurance? No, I've got insurance. And they always try like, okay, you want the gas? If you go up the street, it's going to be more expensive. I'm like, I know it's not more expensive.
You're like, dude, I live here.
And it's always a miserable experience. But this was like, it was the customer service was great. Even the little guy, you know, the little guy with the Pope picture was great. But it was just such a strange rental car experience.
Sounds like a trip through automobile limbo.
Yeah, it was. I mean, maybe that's where they store them for all the movies out here. Who knows?
That must be. I could totally see that.
Let's go to another segment we call
Sir Crowder's Restroom Review of the Week. Oh dear.
This restroom review is for a little place, again in Burbank.
Burbank is the place to go take
Burbank is, I tell you, Burbank is the place for restrooms. If you're looking for, say you're stuck on the freeway, you know, and you really got to go, and Burbank's, you know, you can take a Burbank exit. Just take a Burbank exit and go anywhere in Burbank, and you'll find an interesting restroom.
If you're looking to relieve yourself, head on up to Burbank.
So it's for a place called Play Clothes, which is a vintage clothing store on Magnolia in Burbank.
Sounds like a child's clothing store.
It does. But they sell actual, like, genuine articles. And I said genuine because I'm feeling very
Parks and
90s
Rec.
today.
Oh.
So, all right, here we go. This restroom is possibly the holiest of restrooms in Los Angeles County. The portraits of our Lord surrounding the throne will give you both a sense of peace and possibly stage fright as you take care of your human needs. How you do your business is seriously challenged when you're suddenly aware that the creator of the universe is watching. 4 stars for this quaint washroom and spiritual awakening. So, this restroom, you go in there, the walls are covered in framed portraits of Jesus. So I just it makes you you reevaluate how you do your business.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Didn't Larry David have this issue and he had too powerful of a stream?
Oh yeah, the spatter. That's where it becomes an issue, right? The spatter.
I will say this. I don't think it's the right place for religious art.
No,
I've never seen a church with a picture. Like churches don't even put pictures of Jesus or statues.
The church I used to go to in Dallas had dogs playing poker above the urinals.
See, that's what you do. You put the stuff nobody wants to look at in there. So maybe if it's like that terrible, like religious art that looks like fan fiction from the Bible. Maybe that's what you put
like
in the
those
bathroom.
candles you buy at the dollar store. Yeah, it's like that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm not gonna. Let's not knock our neighbors to the south in Mexico who make those candles. I'm pretty sure it's a cultural thing.
I'm pretty sure those are made in China. All right, now it's time for
Listener Mail.
So this is the part of the show where you, the listener, interacts with us, the show. And you can interact with us several different ways. The main way is through iTunes. If you write us a review on iTunes, you'll get featured on the show, as well as all the social media platforms. What are the social media platforms there, John? We got
the iTunes, YouTube,
all the Twitters,
the Twitter.
the Twiters,
and the Facebook, and the Insta pictures.
Why is it immediately whenever you add the in front of something, it sounds completely out of touch?
Because, I don't know, but it's funny every time.
You know why? Because Justin Timberlake in The Social Network, he says to the Mark Zuckerberg character, he's like, if you want to make it hip, drop the. So,
and that's exactly how it went down.
That's always how it works. It's like if you have a movie that they already have that title, you either drop or you add a the to it, and then it becomes unique.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Justin Timberlake's brilliant acting debut.
Debut.
If you debut, I should know better. I speak French. But yeah, so if you interact with the show with us, this is not only helps with our search rankings, with our iTunes, bumping us into the right rankings we need, but it also gives us stuff to talk about on the show.
Helps us check ourselves.
It's like I got an improv background, and it's like what they call prompts. What are your prompts? What are your suggestions from the audience?
Prompts.
Prompt me, baby.
Your interactions are the suggestions. All right, so let's go to the first iTunes review there. John, what does it say?
All right, this one's from JSSBSS, and it says, I just watched episode 3 with Matt Paxton and laughed so hard. I love how authentically funny these guys are. I think y'all are onto something here. I have 2 questions. How did you watch it, and how did you get Matt Paxton to watch it with you?
I just watched episode 3 with Max Paxton. That's a comma placement, I think. But yeah, I want to know.
Guys, I think these details aren't important. I think the most important thing is that whoever this Just Biz is, they gave us 5 stars.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Just Biz. I'm a little bit concerned though. How did you watch us? How do you watch us? Are you tapping into our webcam when we record?
Perhaps this person was outside the window when we were doing it.
No,
I don't know. That kind of makes me a little
bit
concerned for my
concerned there. Oh, all right. Well, what does that next comment from YouTube say there, Donovan?
All right. So this is from Eric Butler, and oh wow, okay. So he's gonna go. I'm gonna go Irish on this.
He did censor himself.
But I'm gonna go Irish, so you can bleep me if possible. So he says, "Great feckin' show, guys." So in other words, the U has been dropped.
Okay.
The past few have been extremely listenable. Parentheses, not that the first were not good, they were good too. In parentheses. So I keep saying, keep it up, getting better and better. Slayer.
There's a lot of exclamation points.
Wait, well, yeah, with a lot of exclamation points. What's with Slayer?
Well, I don't know. I don't. What is that?
He wants.
Is this like a millennial term, like a young millennial term that I don't get yet, like Slayer?
I'm not sure, but it sounds tough, and I like it, and it's scofflaw-esque.
Scofflaw-esque.
Either way, yeah.
Thank you, and we're glad that it's become extremely listenable. We're glad that's the bar we have hit, is listenable to the extreme.
My dad listens to it.
He does,
and if he listens to it, then it's that's like a thumbs up for humanity.
What did he think of when we talked about him censoring the videos?
I actually, it's funny. I got that through the grapevine from my little brother.
Yeah,
that he had listened to that episode.
Yeah,
and I think he really enjoyed it.
Oh,
because
good.
I mean, that was of course a labor of love on his part. But to hear about that down the road is
that's funny. My dad listens too, and he'll text me like stuff like John will make a reference. He's like, "How did you not get that reference? I got it." And then he'll text John, "I got your reference."
That's right in my day, by the way,
man.
All right. Again, send us your feedback at Jen Scofflaw on all the social media, and leave us a review on iTunes for a chance to get read on the show. Let's go to a quick break, and we'll be back with actor, author, veteran, filmmaker, Isaiah Stratton. Now, this segment is brought to you by Audible.com. Now, for those of you who already listen to podcasts, you probably already know about Audible.com. And maybe you've tried it or maybe you haven't, but here's a good opportunity for you to try Audible.com for free and help support the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. So if you go to audibletrial.com/gentscofflaw, you could sign up for a whole month for free, get your free audiobook, and that helps support us. That affiliate link helps support the show. So if you like listening to podcasts, you probably like listening to audiobooks. It's pretty much the same thing, except probably something a little bit smarter and a little more life affirming than what you listen to on the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. Sorry. But you can listen to all sorts of books. I recommend The Art of Manliness by Brett McKay. You can get that for free as your free trial. You can really download any book you want to on there. So go to audibletrial.com/gentscofflaw. There are tens of thousands of titles. I mean, why not get some knowledge in you, right? Right? I mean, if you're, you're driving to work, why get mad in traffic? Why do that, right? Why not just listen to something that fills your brain, fills your brain and your soul? Or, maybe you're mowing the lawn, right? That's not fun to do. Mowing the lawn's not fun at all, right? But if you're listening to an audiobook, you're like, this is not so bad. I can do this. At least I'm learning something, or at least I'm being entertained, right? So, audibletrial.com/JenScofflaw and sign up today, and tweet at us. Let us know what book you get, because I'm always looking for new book recommendations. All right, now back to the show. All right, I'm excited to have this guest. We've worked together, and the first time I knew him, it was as an actor, but he's also an author, a veteran, a poet, a pianist, I think I said that right, and a filmmaker. Isaiah Stratton, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. I love hearing people say that word, pianist.
Yeah, there's was it the comedian, I think Owen Benjamin? Yeah,
the giant pianist.
The giant pianist. He's like 6'5" or something, and he's a musical comedy guy. It's always a funny word. I met you 2-3 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I think it was Popeye 2 years ago.
Yeah, we shot a movie together 2 or 3 years ago. But you've been killing it as an actor, and you're so busy. Like, you got to stop doing so much, because you're making all the rest of us look bad. You were a Marine, and now you're an actor. How does that happen? What's the career trajectory that made that happen?
Well, I guess going back before that, I've been acting since I was young. It wasn't something that I started after the Marines.
Okay.
All the way back from being the narrator in my kindergarten school play. It just started way back there, which I'm sure there's videotapes somewhere my parents have, but hopefully they'll never surface. But that continued on through speech and theater stuff all the way through middle school and high school, and writing as well. And Dad encouraged us all to write. I was able to actually place nationally in a Veterans of Foreign Wars essay contest my senior year of high school, and I won the state of Ohio. Got to go to Washington, D.C. to the White House, meet President Bush.
Oh, wow.
So the writing and acting stuff have kind of been going on, for my whole life. And the military just always been something that's been interesting to me. And I kind of made the decision, if I was going to do it, I wanted to go into the hardest branch. If I was going to do it, I was going to go all out. That's why I went with the Marines. And so, I went to reserves right out of high school. Nothing much was going on, to date myself, get my age. I graduated August 24, 2001 from boot camp right before September 11th happened.
Wow. Wow.
Everything kind of blew up right after that.
Wow.
So I guess I'm kind of getting back around to where I ended up back in the acting career after the military. Did the reserves through college, trained different areas in the U.S. and came around the end of my senior year of college. They told us our whole unit was going to be going overseas. So we put everything on hold, told the family, told everybody. And then the next month they came back and said, hey, we're not going anymore. They took everybody they needed from California instead. So there I was with nothing, graduated college with nothing to do, nothing set up, as people do. And but they needed guys up at Quantico up in Virginia. So I went up there on active duty for 6 months. And while I was there, this kind of dovetails into the acting thing as well. They were doing a casting call for Clint Eastwood's Flags of Our Fathers. They wanted military guys. So I went to this open casting call. It worked out time-wise with me being on the base to go to that. So I went and didn't get chosen for that, but I did get chosen. The casting company called me back and we're like, hey, we need a shoot double for this film that's shooting Failure to Launch for Bradley Cooper. Do you want to do that? What? Sure.
Not American Sniper, Failure to Launch.
Yeah. So you go from like, I want to go be a military dude in Clint Eastwood's film, and like, no, I'm going to be a shoot double for Bradley Cooper and Goofy. Yeah, so there's a couple scenes in Failure to Launch where there's, their Prius is driving across a bridge. I'm like, that's my arm hanging out the window. And that's not Bradley Cooper's.
Oh, man, you're ruining the illusion.
I'm so sorry. I apologize. I have so many illusions I can ruin. We can ruin illusions all day.
Yeah.
So I got done at Quantico, came back to Greenville, was finishing out with the reserves there. And at that point, this kind of leads to where my book comes in. But I was married for 5 years, and then during the end of that, I was kind of thinking, nothing was really clicking as far as career wise with some different corporate stuff I was doing. Just really wasn't enjoying corporate life, wasn't clicking. So I thought, well, I'll go back in the military. And at that point, my relationship with my wife ended. And so everything kind of just went sideways at that point.
Yeah.
And, the door just kind of shut on the military, going back in the military, because I wanted to go back to be a pilot.
Oh, wow.
And there's an age limit on that. So at that point, I was past the age limit for pilot. So I was like, well, all these doors that seemed like they made sense. Like I tried the FBI because I wanted to do that. Got through the first couple of rounds, didn't get picked. And I'm like, man, nothing is working out. Like I think these are really obvious things that should work out.
Yeah.
And they didn't. So I was like, well, I know I love acting. And at this point, going back to our friend Justin Robinson, I had done a couple short films with him. I was like, man, I love doing this. And at this point, I can go live on ramen or peanut butter and take a flying leap at this point. And so that's what I did. I drove up to Nashville because I had met an agent here previously. And I'm like, I'm just going to go up there and start there and see what happens. And that's where I've been here for the last 5.5 years now.
Wow. It's funny that acting was your fallback. Usually people like, I'm an actor and, they have something else they fall back on that's like, but I'm also an accountant or someone like that. You had no other choice.
Yeah, it's crazy because, you hear those famous quotes, people say from famous actors and like, if you can do anything else and be happy, go do that. Because this lifestyle is it literally just punches you in the face all the time. Yeah. And the ups seem to be less frequent than the downs. The downs seem to come more often. But, I'm like, hey, I've lived a lot of life for where I'm at already. And I know I love to do this. So why not just keep chasing something that I love to do?
Yeah.
And I get to meet people like you and work with people like you. It's awesome.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned you moved to Nashville to do acting, which people out here, well, that's like now that makes a lot of sense because like Nashville it's almost like a, what do you call
an
it?
Entertainment hub of the
but it's like
South.
People used to
it's
think
a
of it
Renaissance town.
Yeah, people used to think of it as kind of like just a music town, like a country music town, which is also inaccurate because a lot of music recording in all genres happens there. But it seems like there's been this crazy, movie industry that's popped up in Nashville.
Yeah, and the reason again Nashville is because when I lived in the Carolinas. I had gone to an acting workshop in Atlanta, and my Tennessee agent was there scouting talent.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I connected with her, and she connected with me. And we had discussed, I did a few auditions, but, driving from South Carolina to Nashville when you're working full time, I just didn't have the flexibility to pursue it.
Yeah.
And so she said, hey, I'm going to take you off the roster for right now, but if it opens up, your schedule opens up, let me know, we'll pursue it. So I'm like, okay, cool. And so fast forward years later, when then I decided to do it, it's like, well, I already have a relationship with an agent. Because starting out a lot of times getting in with a solid agent is difficult.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if you don't have much on your resume. So I'm like, well, I have this relationship with this agent, so I'm just going to go to Nashville first. Yeah. And work on building my resume. So that's why I ended up in Nashville, originally.
Yeah. It's crazy too, because you're working a lot. I see all the stuff that you're doing. You've been in a bunch of music videos. You've been on the TV show Nashville. You actually can make a living acting outside of LA, which is it's a good day when that can happen. I think because I don't know. I think it's nice when you don't have to be forced to go to LA anymore.
LA is a little bit overrated.
Yeah, it's for sure. And cost of living, travel, everything's a little bit easier. Obviously we still get just kind of that subconscious, which it's less, because Atlanta is becoming such a huge hub. I mean, there were more films filmed in Atlanta last year than there were in LA. Yeah. So Atlanta is huge now, but it's still kind of that mentality of the Southeast actor is not quite as maybe as cool or as prepared as your New York and your LA actors, but I think that mindset will continue to go down as people see the caliber of actors that are working in the Southeast.
Yeah. I think that's like a kind of snobby West Coast, East Coast thing where they think that because we were talking about how we met on this short film Popeye the Pizza Man, and I remember being cast in that through our friend Justin and showing up on set and being so intimidated because I'm like, oh crap, I'm in a movie with real actors that know what they're doing, and I'm somehow in this movie with you and Joe, who did just such a fantastic job, and Justin's the real deal directing, and I just remember like thinking like this is like these are real actors. I'm done. I'm gonna ruin this thing. How am I gonna get through the next few days?
Well, you hit it really, really well. I never felt like that, or that you would just like crack us up. Like I could just take after take. Like, I'm sorry, I got to go again. I'm just laughing so hard right now.
Well, that was the only thing I could do. I was like, well, I guess I could be silly. I mean, that's what I know how to do. But I mean, Justin also is such a great director. I feel like he could pull great things out of anyone. But you guys you guys were prepared. I mean, you did such a great job in that role. And for our listeners that haven't seen it, I'm going to include the link in the show notes to the full short film, and you can watch it. You could take a break from it and then go watch it and then come back and listen to the rest of this interview.
It's a great film.
Yeah. And you should watch it because you can actually see Jordan's face and not just listen to his voice.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think I've got a face for radio. But yeah, I remember because I had seen you in some of Justin's other films, and you were great in those. And when he said that you would be cast as Lewis in that, I was like, huh, that's an interesting choice. Just because I think of you as like, you're obviously a good-looking guy, and I pictured as Lewis as kind of like this kind of meek kind of character. Like I feel like Isaiah's too good-looking and confident to play this character, and you showed up and like it was this complete transformation. You had that little like we all had like these impotent mustaches on this. It was
so many mustaches on that film. So many
mustaches, but like you had totally transformed, and it was really fun to be able to watch you do that.
Oh, thanks, man. It's really kind. Really kind. It was, I mean, I love that character so much. And I I worked really hard on it because when Justin told me about it, because, and you spent a lot of time with him. I think I've done 7 films with him now of his. And so whenever he has something going on, a lot of times he'll share scripts and notes and stuff like that. And he put out his thing that he was casting. I was like, hey man, I'd love to read for it. And he's like, oh, I mean, okay. I mean, I guess, if you want to, read for Lewis. And he even said that. He's like, I wasn't expecting, and I really just kind of had an idea what I wanted to do with him and just really take it out there, Yeah. And I think it worked. I really just fell in love with that guy. And it was a really heavy kind of painful thing, but really just cathartic in the same way to explore something that I haven't got the chance to do a lot of.
Yeah, for sure. It was great. I almost felt like that character felt like it could have fit in like Sling Blade or something. Like it was like
that's who Billy Bob Thornton in Sling Blade, Tom Hanks and Forrest Gump, Ryan Gosling in Lars and the Real Girl. Like those 3 characters were ones that I studied a lot and where I was like stealing for that character. Oh, wow. So I mean I love those performances.
Yeah, those are so great. But I mean you had some heavy scenes in those movies too, and you pulled them off great. And so
thanks, man.
And it's funny because fast forward to now, and I know you said you've been writing forever, but you just came out with your own short film that you wrote and directed, and I believe you've done a couple of them now, which is fantastic. I mean, it's like it's crazy to be able to see like your transformation of me just knowing you as an actor and then finding out all these other things about you. You're like you are the genuine Renaissance man.
Can I get that on a button? Like that I'm officially certified by the Gentleman Scofflaw
sticker.
Yeah. We can do that. We'll make it up.
Insert Napoleon Dynamite fist pump. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like there's that thing of you have to be stretching yourself, because if you sit around as an actor and just wait on your agent or your manager to find you stuff, I mean, like, yeah, if they're good, you'll get the auditions from them. But if you have to hustle on your own, finding people. Like, I mean, blessed to know Justin, I've known him for so many years, to work on so much stuff with him, and then just have these ideas of characters I wanted to play, or just kind of these thoughts. I mean, my first short film I did came from a short story I wrote, and a director that I really like, when I posted it, he commented it and he just said, "When are we shooting this?" I'm like, oh man, I didn't even think of like actually seeing this as a short film. And I was like, wow, that'd be a really cool kind of idea. So then I went back, and I wasn't used to, I mean, I was just writing in like Word format and like just trying to indent stuff. I didn't even have, a script writing, software, which is free. I just didn't even know about that kind of stuff.
Caltex.
Exactly. So it's like, that's what I use.
That's
now.
what I use too still.
It's so simple, but I'm like, I don't know. It's like, it's kind of a means to an end.
Yeah.
So I wrote, that first one, and then Prelude, this is, my second one. And that was kind of the goal. I was like, man, I really want to see if I can write something. Number one, I wanted to show that I could play the piano. It's like, it's something I grew up classically trained. My mom, she's a piano teacher. She started us in second grade. And then once we got to junior high, she passed us off to a more advanced teacher. But I mean, I've taken piano for 11 years. And so I wanted to show it as an actor, something else in my toolbox, that I can do, especially watching The Pianist for one, and then just watching Ryan Gosling, good grief, in La La Land. Just amazing work. I'm nowhere near that, but just to get a chance I'm going to write something that I can show I played a piano. So how can I write a short story that could fit in somewhere? And that's kind of where the idea came from.
That's awesome. Like for me, if I were trying to think of what can I showcase, I'd be like, I guess I can eat stuff. what would I showcase?
I mean, incorporate Uber Eats into a short film.
Uber Eats, yeah. What kind of spurred the narrative of this? I mean, without ruining it too much for the viewer, they could watch, or the listener. I guess they would be a viewer if they're going to watch this in the links. But tell us a little bit about the short and kind of what gave you the idea for it, other than the piano part.
I guess it started, the writing process, I bounced it around in my head and went back and forth with a couple people with notes, Justin being one of them. And that's what I love about him as a friend, because he's brutally honest and will be. I mean, the first draft, he's just like, man, this is just like not strong. And I'm like, thank you. Message received. But it was just kind of that idea. I started with a guy at a piano. It's kind of like a big party's going on, and I'm an introvert. And so I tend to, parties kind of overwhelm me, and I'll kind of seek out, maybe a room to kind of like get away for a second.
Yeah,
so I kind of saw this guy that just found a piano in her room. He's out there just kind of getting away from the party, and a girl comes in and sees him. She's kind of the same way, and they kind of just bond over the fact of this piano. And there's just some, this narrative kind of went from there. It was really cliche and not strong at all. And then I was like, well, I'll just kind of let it sit in my head for a while and just kind of worked on it a little bit. And then my friend Tori Martin, who I've known for several years, he always gets kind of pigeonholed as a comic, the punchline, the big, funny, bearded, redheaded, big guy.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to see him as more of a serious role. And he's a great look for that kind of therapist, put some horn rim glasses on him, and he's just a really interesting face.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was like, man, wouldn't it be interesting if this guy was almost not the main character of it, if it was more maybe the therapist is kind of, it's trying to take away from just putting all that weight on the main character and try to flesh it out with somebody else. And once I kind of got that idea, maybe he's talking to somebody trying to work through something. That's kind of where it started going through that rabbit hole of, hey, maybe there's some memory loss and there's some therapy. And, music is such a huge connection with memory.
Yeah.
That and smell are hugely connected with memory. And so I was like, well, that'd be pretty cool if this guy knew a ton about music.
Yeah.
And, and so that's kind of where I ended up going with that, down that road of this guy who's trying to find his way out of a memory loss situation by using music to try to bring him back.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Wow.
That's
Thanks.
great. Well, people, if you guys want to watch it, again, the links are in the notes.
I want to watch it.
You want to watch it? You haven't seen it yet? Didn't you read the show notes?
I did read the show notes, but I had,
I'm just messing with you.
I wanted to get into Nashville Film Festival with it. That was kind of my end goal, because Nashville is an Academy Award nomination level film festival. A lot of people don't know that. If you win Nashville, you're eligible for an Academy Award nomination. So it's a very prestigious film festival.
Oh, wow.
And that was my goal, to try to get in. And we did. Like, we got into that. And so now it's like I'm actually going to Knoxville this weekend, or whenever this podcast comes out, July, whatever. I don't know what the date is right now. The weekend following this podcast that we're actually recording this, we're going over to Knoxville for a film festival, the Music's Scruffy City Film Music Festival, something like that.
Cool.
So I still have it submitted to, I think, about 6 or 7 other festivals, and waiting to hear back on those too.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
It's hard to get into festivals these days. That's no easy feat. Even online film festivals, they're getting finicky. Like I've tried,
they are.
They're like, I submitted to an online film festival 2 years ago. I did this short with actually our friend Joe Coffey that was in Popeye, and I got this long email about why it was not appropriate for their website. Like, they're like, this just doesn't fit into our programming and stuff. And I was like, I've never even gotten a response before. It was pretty humbling.
A simple no will suffice.
No, it's just good. It's good. They're like,
well, were you paying for feedback, or was it unsolicited feedback?
No, I guess. Well, I paid for the submission, so I guess they thought they were giving me something out of giving me feedback. Which, I mean, I appreciate the honesty, but it was just funny that, like, it was like one of those things where people were like in two camps. They either really liked it and thought it was fun, or like the more artistic minded people were like, this is just too cheesy, and that was I fell into that category, and they picked apart what made it cheesy, which was very humbling. So you got into directing, I guess, by kind of necessity, which I think a lot of people are doing nowadays, because you want to create your own work, right? I mean, that's kind of
right.
Yeah,
and that was and the only reason, like, I directed Prelude was more just because this was really low budget. I mean, I had a couple people who stepped in. I pitched it to a few people I knew, basically asking if they would want to help fund it. And we probably did it. It was around $5,000, and that's not a lot of money at all. I got very lucky. A guy that I'd worked with on a feature like a year and a half prior came down to be the AC on it. He brought his own camera, which was, we shot on his Red, which I was planning to use my DP, Andrew Bradford, who I've worked with, love him. Yeah. We shot my first short film on his C100 for people who know cameras, and I was going to just use that because he's like, I'll bring it. And then Spencer just comes in and is like, hey, we'll use my Red. And I'm like, so it was, the reason I directed was very much, I was just trying to keep small crew, make it very lean. We shot it in a day and a half. So I wanted to just keep it very small, but my next one, I'll never direct and act again. That does not, I did not enjoy that at all.
That's some tough stuff. Like, I mean, can you talk about that? Like, what were the challenges of, because I've always studied like actor directors, and it really seems to drain, like it seems to drain you mentally, physically, all that stuff. So what's the
100%. And I know there are people who do it. I mean, Ben Affleck, writing and, whatever, directing Argo and being in it, stuff like that. It just blows my mind.
No.
But as far as for me, because we did do it so fast, the majority of the takes, I didn't even watch playback. When Tori and I are in the room doing our conversations, when the camera is on him, and I'm just sitting there acting, I'm watching his performance, in person, from 4 feet away. Yeah. And at the end of the take, if I liked what he was doing, I just looked at Bradford, my DP. I'm like, are we clean? Is like everything good with the shot? And he'd be like, yeah. And we, I think the most takes we took was maybe 3, maybe 4 on a take. And so we moved quickly. And I would have loved to actually be able to stand back. Like there's a scene in the hallway where the girl who knows me and I know her, but I can't remember her. There's a scene where she's talking to the therapist, Tori, out in the hallway, and there where I actually got to stand behind the monitor and watch them. Like, that was so much better to be able to see what the camera was seeing. And I would have liked to have done that, because that was really difficult to not have that time really, or that ability to do that. And yeah, what you were saying, the mental space, I guess, as far as an actor, it was a lot, because I'm thinking about all these things of the story and what you need to be doing, what you need to be doing. Is this coming? Or we got this covered, all the stuff. And man, my next one is like, I'm just going to show up and leave that all to somebody else. Just come in as an actor, kind of like Lewis on Popeye. You know, I came in and I got to just focus 100% on that character, and that's what I love to do.
Yeah. I felt the same way too on that, because my background is more on the directing side, and I've been in things that I've directed, and I feel the same way. That stress of having to do both at once. It's just, and Popeye was great to do something where I'm like, I'm showing up, I'm doing my thing, and I don't have to think about what the shot is. If the sound is good, if we're losing light, somebody's just going to tell me where to go. And then I don't know. It's hard to split. I know some people can do it. You see guys like Clint Eastwood and Mel Gibson and all those guys. I mean, and they do great performances too. Yeah. And it's like, it's amazing that they could do so much. I mean, same thing with you on that short film. I mean, a great performance, obviously, and just
thank you.
I mean, I wouldn't have known that you were so, having that battle.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I tried once we got cameras are rolling to give myself the time, to get where I needed to be, for whatever the shot was doing. But yeah, to be able to focus 100% of your creative energy on a character, as opposed to thinking about what the camera's seeing, what the other actors are doing, all that stuff, and then missing stuff. I look at it now, and it from stuff you shot, you get it done and you see it, I'm like, oh man, if I would have shot that differently. I would have framed that differently. I would have asked that person to do that differently. And so I just said after Prelude, and then like getting in the edit and post-production, I'm like, no one's doing anything unless you're kicking the rock up the hill. Yeah, it's true, like you have to be pushing it. I'm like, I don't want to do that ever again either. I just want to be like, show up and trust that somebody else is doing that. And so after I got done with Prelude, I was like, I'm not going to write anything else. I mean, other than I love writing fiction and poetry as kind of an outlet, but script wise, I'm like, I'm just going to take a break, not focus on it. And then about 3 weeks later, I get an idea for a short. I'm like, dang it.
That's what happens.
I have to write it. So
yeah, you have to.
So I have my next one written. It's going to cost a lot more money, and I'm not pushing that at all. I'm just let that going to happen organically when it happens.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll get back to the rest of the interview. Scofflaws, I wanted to take a second to talk to you about Patreon. Now, if you've never heard of Patreon, basically it's a platform for creators, for patrons who are fans of a given creator to help support their creations. So we have a Patreon page for the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. You could support the show for as little as $1 an episode, which is like what? This is just cheaper than a Starbucks coffee, right? So maybe give up one. Why does everyone always do that? They say it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. Okay, what else do you spend $1 on? Maybe it's cheaper than buying Q-tips. Maybe you don't need Q-tips for the month. Maybe this month you avoid Q-tips, right? I don't know. I mean, I hear they're bad for you anyway, but maybe that's not true. I don't. Maybe don't sacrifice anything related to health for the $1 an episode. But Patreon is great because you, the patron, also gets rewards for joining the Patreon. So examples of stuff that we have are extended interviews and outtakes, stuff that gets cut out of the episode that you don't hear for time's sake, because we try to keep a tight, entertaining show, and sometimes there is some gold that doesn't make the final cut. So you get to listen to some of that. Also, you get behind-the-scenes videos, photos, and bonus episodes. For example, we did a bonus episode at the Big Shave West, which was a lot of fun. So more of those type of things are coming, as well as monthly live video hangouts where you can interact with us in person, which is a lot of fun. We've done a couple of free ones to test it out, and it's been a lot of fun. We get to talk with the listeners in real time and get to know them, and they get to ask questions, and it's always a good time. And here's the pièce de résistance is when we hit our goal mark, we are launching a whole new movie review podcast, a Gentleman Scofflaw movie review podcast. Since, you know, we're all of us on the show are writers and filmmakers, and that's our background. We love movies. We're going to go through a catalog of what we think are either gentleman or Scofflaw-esque movies. So if you join, you'll get that show as well. Everyone who joins on Patreon at any one of the tiers, even at the $1 an episode, gets a free Gentleman Scofflaw vinyl sticker, which is super cool. It's like a full color sticker. It's really sticky. You could stick it on, anything you want to stick it on. Also, you'll get thanked on the air for your support. So check out patreon.com/gentscofflaw, or you could go to gentlemanscofflaw.com and click the support link on our menu, and it'll take you right there. We look forward to seeing you on Patreon, and thank you for supporting the show. You touched on, you're writing fiction, and you touched on before your marriage, which you mentioned in passing earlier. I didn't know this about you when we shot, but you have, and I've read parts of it now. You have a book called Suddenly Single, and it tells your story. I'd like to know a little bit about that. What made you want to write it? And I think it's an interesting story. So I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's out there for anyone who wants to buy it. It's like sometimes I'm like, man, I shouldn't have put all that personal stuff, but going through losing a relationship. As I was going through it, I'm a big reader, and I was trying to find stuff written by guys who had gone through the loss of a relationship, and I really didn't find much of anything. There was a lot of really good stuff written by ladies, which I would 100% recommend, but I was trying to find a guy's perspective on it. Yeah. And I was like, man, there's just like a woefully inadequate amount of books about this. And Tori, my friend Tori Martin, who was also a writer, I spent time with him when I first met him when I moved to Nashville. And I do, journal some too, and especially going through all that, I was journaling more. And I had, I think, 4 or 5 other guys I knew personally who, over the course of me going through my, divorce, and then after that, some who contacted me who were going through semi or similar situations. Yeah. So they're texting and emailing and asking me, hey, did you experience this? How did you handle this? What did you do about this? And I'm like, man, I feel like there's maybe some other guys out there who could benefit from, because, guys, we don't a lot of personal stuff. A lot of times you just shove it down and just plow forward. It's kind of the old school mentality. Yeah. And so, I was talking with Tori about it, and he just looked at me and said, like, maybe you need to be the one to write a book about it. And I was like, man, I've never written a book. I don't even know what that looks like. And so I started reading a bunch of books on how people write, autobiographical stuff, all those things, kind of look into that. I started writing, and first couple starts, I look back at some of that stuff. It was not good at all. It was kind of this cluster going on, but kind of started finding my voice. I had a few people who were really good writers who were kind of mentoring me as we went along. Cecil Murphy, who's actually a really great writer, as kind of a favor to Tori, came in after I had basically the whole draft done, and I started sending him chapters, and he told me straight up at the beginning, he's like, I'm doing this as a favor. He's like, I'm not going to pull punches. If it needs to be ripped apart, I'm going to rip it apart. I'm like, please go ahead. And he did. And so I just go back and forth, and I thought he was just going to help me maybe on one chapter. And he's like, well, go ahead and send me the next one. I'm like, okay. So we went through, I think, about 6 or 7 chapters that way. And he said, I think you know what you need to do now. He's like, you have the eye for it, what I would say. And so I kind of ripped apart and went through the rest of it as I went. And I wanted to keep it short, because a lot of guys aren't big readers. I wanted it to be something where, it's because, for an actor, like 100 pages is basically 100 pages, movie script type thing. You could sit down and read it, and people aren't big readers can blow through it. And it's very simple. I look back at it now as a writer where I am now, and I'm like, oh, kind of that cringe. Like, I could have written so much better, but that was where I was at the time. And so, I kind of wrote through my experience, and I wanted to be very respectful of her. Like, I didn't ever, name my ex-wife in it. It happened. It was more about like after, she was gone, it was my journey going through that. And so that's in kind of my family. And then I focused on too, it's not just divorce. It's also just losing relationships. Because if you live long enough, you're going to lose a relationship of some type. Yeah. My older brother and his wife lost a really late term miscarriage that was really hard. No. And then I like a grandma of mine that I was really close to, losing her through late stage cancer, like slowly, you're going to lose relationships. And that's like, how do you deal with that? Yeah. What do you do as a human when you lose a relationship? And so I wrote it, and I mean, I self-published it on Amazon, and I did it Indiegogo, just raise, I think my goal was like $1,400 or $1,600. Oh, wow. Because I was just to pay for, my layout designer, my graphic designer who did the cover, and my editor. And I remember posting that. I did a video, a friend of mine, Paige Lynch, who's a cinematographer here in Tennessee, shot this kind of interview style thing. And I did an interview and posted the video with the Indiegogo fundraiser, launched it, and it just blew up. I mean, it landed on Indiegogo's homepage because it was trending so fast. Wow. Like, it showed up as one of like the highlighted campaigns, and it was fully funded in under 24 hours and ended up, I think, with over $4,000. Wow. And it was like, and I was getting messages before the book even went out. People were like, oh my goodness, just what you're talking about. I can't wait to read. Or I thought I was the only one that experienced these things. And it's amazing what happens when you give people permission by telling your own story. It gives other people permission then to tell their story, because they realize, oh, you might understand. I can talk to you. Yeah. And the people that I didn't even know, emailing me or messaging me and telling me their stories, I was like, I had no idea I was going to kind of open that box, letting people talk about it. So it's kind of crazy, that it had that kind of impact. But I think maybe something resonated with a guy kind of opening up and letting people inside a guy's head. Yeah. Maybe there's something attractive about that. We're not always just like, screensaver mode. There are actually things are happening once in a while inside our heads.
It's not just a dancing monkey inside. No, I mean, in the book, you're very candid in the book, and I will say, I know you're kind of poking fun at yourself at the writing of what it was at the time, but it's really well written and very poetic and very it reads like a novel when you're telling your autobiography, and it's like it's very easy and relatable to read, and like I said, you're super candid with it, which I think is important, especially in faith-based writing, where you're talking about how your faith pertains to all that you went through. A lot of the time, Christian writers they don't a lot of the time want to deal with or not deal with, but put everything out there for a failure of seeming like they're not perfect, or they don't want to, encourage other people to do the wrong thing or whatever. But it just makes you more relatable and makes it more real. And I thought it was great.
Thanks. I mean, there was that thing of what and I see this as an actor too. Like, I don't shy away from roles that are dark or heavy or like, I would never do those things or those choices in my Isaiah Stratton's personal life, but that character, these things need to be shown in order for this to serve the story. So like, I don't shy away from those things as an actor. And I felt in my book, I needed to, and again, I didn't want to be, I guess titillating or just like overly, sharing too much, but I wanted to be, like you said, just be truthful about the fact of like, hey, like I effed up, it's like, and then you see kind of where these things lead, and like, they don't really make you feel better after you do things. And like, and I wanted to show it's like, hey, I'm not perfect. And like, that was really hard because, a lot of stuff in the book, my family didn't know about prior to me writing. So, I mean, I think that was difficult for them, I think, to read some of those things, especially when you have this kind of this mindset of you don't want people to know your dirty laundry in a way, which is why I wanted to handle it. But again, also be truthful and show it's like, I'm not perfect.
Yeah. For sure. And your story is also helpful, I feel. I mean, it's obviously about you going subtly single, going through your divorce and stuff, but it's also helpful, I think, to other people in relationships. I'm going to pull up a quote here that I thought was really good, if that's all right. It says, I'll read this little paragraph here. It says, divorce, that horrible nightmare, was happening. It was happening to us, and there was nothing I could do about it. Me, the guy trained to kill, to adapt, to protect. I was a warrior machine undone by the only enemy capable of defeating me, my own apathy. Years earlier, I had fought for and captured her heart, but over the past several months, I had rarely stepped onto the battlefield. Now it was too late. She trusted my hands to hold her, and I had let her slip away. I feel like that's super helpful because a lot of men, they get married and they do everything they can to win the woman, to woo her and all that stuff. And then when they get married, sometimes they forget about that. And that hit home with me, where it just struck me. I'm like, well, that's super important. Like, it doesn't end after you get married. And I thought it was super valuable, even if you're a married person or in a relationship, that you always got to fight for that relationship. And I don't know, it struck a chord with me.
Yeah. I mean, I heard somebody say one time when they had found out somebody, I don't know if they had gotten engaged or just gotten married, and they're like, why, it was this mindset of, but why are you still, we were talking about going to the gym or lifting or something like that. It's like, what, you got her? Like, why do you still need, like, why are you still working so hard? Yeah. I'm like, really, bro? Like, I mean, it's so disrespectful to the person that it's not like, oh, I got you. Like, I got you chained in the basement. Now I can do whatever I want. Like, that's just so, that's so horrible to think that way. It's like, guys, like, we're meant to pursue. There's that mentality of like, okay, I got her. And I think that's why a lot of guys, they cheat or they go after, because it's that inner thing you're always geared to pursue. Yeah. And so like, you just keep wiring that to pursue the person that you're supposed to be pursuing, even if they've got this name tag of girlfriend or fiance or wife. Yeah. Like, if you don't keep pursuing, it's like the relationship's not going to be healthy.
Yeah. For sure. Well, I think it was great, man. And people that are listening, you can get it on Amazon. It's available on Kindle, too. It's available on Kindle.
Yeah. Jordan was specifically reading from his Kindle.
And Nook. If people do still do Nook, apparently I think it's on there. That's still a thing.
I forgot about Nook.
That was like Barnes and Noble's big gamble, wasn't it? Like they had like little Nook desks in their stores, but
it's funny because like my brother and I both get into tech, and I feel like he got a Nook and he also got a Google what's it called, a Google Home.
Oh yeah.
And I got the Kindle and I got the Alexa, and I feel like the
you
two
won
other
that one.
I feel like I'm winning out on the tech side.
I think you're on.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking around with him, but yeah,
seriously.
Seriously. I mean, the Alexa's great. I know there's so much it could do. The only thing I have it programmed to do is turn on my lights, and it'll play music for me, and I have nothing else that I can make it do.
That's all I ever need.
Completely useless. But I know it'll once I figure it out, there'll be cooler things I can do with it. Yeah. But yeah, let's talk about your current projects. I mean, you were in, where were you? You were, when I contacted you for the show, you were out of the country. What were you working on? So
I was in the Dominican Republic working on a film. And this story is, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, I saw a casting post on Facebook, which I cannot wait for the day when I can just get off and just leave it. But I still feel like I network a lot on there, and a lot of music video work, especially people have contacted me through there. But I saw this casting and it said, Caucasian, male, 30s, prior military or law enforcement experience preferred, must have valid passport, couple week, like good weekly rate. And I'm like, hey, I mean, like worst case scenario, I might get a paid vacation out of this, because I really don't respond to extras castings. I just don't do that type of thing. But I'm like, hey, if I haven't been on vacation and I can't remember how long. And I'm like, I'll just treat it like that.
Yeah.
So I sent in they just wanted a picture and kind of your basic information. So I sent it in, and they get back to me almost immediately and say, hey, you're exactly the demographic we're looking for. Can you put yourself on tape and send in a kind of a little tape of what about yourself? So I sent that in. They asked if I could come down to callbacks in Atlanta, and I was already booked on another shoot for that day. And so the casting director was like, hey, can you just put yourself on tape again? Be very specific about your military experience, your stunt experience, your firearms training experience, all this stuff. So I went really into detail on all of that. And they get back and like, all right. She calls me then a couple days later. I think it was like 8:15 at night. She's like, hey, so the director loves your look and wants you to read for a principal role, for a speaking role. I just sent you the sides, like the script. I need it by tomorrow. And I open my emails, 4-page scene. Yeah, sure. I'll just.
That was like Justin when he sent me the paper. It was like 5 pages.
Yeah. It says like, as actors do. I'm like, sure, no problem. I got this. So I spent several hours that night, preparing and working on this scene. And taped it the next morning, sent it to her because I was tied up the next night. I'm like, I got to just turn this around quick. So I sent it to her. This scene it's an FBI agent talking to his, a special agent in charge, kind of some type of thing they were working on went sideways, and they're just kind of butting heads about what happened. So I taped it and I sent it back. And so she comes back again and says, okay, you're confirmed as from what you originally submitted for. You're confirmed as featured extra. But the director may make a game time decision. He loved your tape. He make him, when you get down here, we may bump you up to principal. I'm like, sweet, that'd be awesome if I did.
Yeah.
And so I looped my agent, which I'm with Stewart Talent in Atlanta, and they have offices in LA, Chicago, New York, and Atlanta, but they're a great agency. So I looped her into it. I'm like, hey, Christy, this is what's going on, just so she knew what was happening. And she's like, wait, is this union? Like, I can't protect you if you're flying out of the country somewhere. Like, what is going on? I'm like, I really don't know, but they said it's SAG, so let's just hope it's okay.
Yeah.
So still flying down, not knowing who the director is, not knowing anything about it. And we got down there, find out we're going to Pinewood Studios. I'm like, okay, so this is legit. Pinewood Studios in the DR. Yep. And we flew in this afternoon. They drove us straight over there. We get to wardrobe, and the head of wardrobe says, okay, I want to see Isaiah Stratton first because he's the HRT boss. And I'm like, looks like I got it. Because there were 9 of us guys that went down together as a pack.
Yeah.
And so that's when I found out they had bumped me up, and they gave me like pages that night because we were shooting, I think the next night we were on night shoots.
Oh, wow.
The scene is all happening outside. So anyway, in the scene, the HRT, which is the FBI's hostage rescue team, it's like their top elite guys are coming into a situation, and I was the HRT commander or boss. And so I come up and I'm interacting with the leads of the film, just kind of about what's going on in the situation. And so so it ended up, I got to be down there for a week and a half and got bumped up to a principal. So I got to have, speaking lines with, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say who the actors are on it yet. I think I may have texted you, but just in case I'm not going to say, but it's, some people who are very recognizable in Hollywood. I'm like, this is awesome. And it's a director who's from Britain. So it's a dark comedy. I mean, really. Nice. And so it's really interesting. It's funny in a kind of sad way in a lot of ways. But it's a super interesting project. No idea when it's going to come out. I heard rumors possibly late next year sometime.
Okay.
But you know how feature films go. Usually it's at least a year turnaround on those things. But yeah, I mean, it was huge bump up, to go from a featured extra to principal, to have that, going on the resume was awesome. And to get to work with these people, once I can say it, I was like, man, these people are people I look, like really like their work and stuff like that. And to actually get to hang out with them and talk with them on, around set, and then have a scene with them was pretty cool.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Well, when it comes out, we'll have to have you back on to promote it and talk about it.
Perhaps we'll do a review.
Perhaps we'll do a movie review.
Yeah, a Scofflaw
review. But what if we don't like it? Then it would be awkward.
Well, we can do
like a bathroom review? Like a
bathroom review? Yeah. I'll watch the movie in the bathroom and review it.
No, or just do a thing where we keep running out of the movie into the bathroom and reviewing it on our cell phones. Like, okay, 30 minutes in, pretty good. Isaiah's awesome.
Well, that's awesome, man. I can't wait to see it. Where can people find you if they want to see your work?
Yeah, so my website is just my name, IsaiahStratton.com, and it's Isaiah like in the Bible. So if you need to figure out how to spell it, just, it's in the middle of the Bible. Don't ask Starbucks baristas because they can't spell it as much as I love them and as much time as I spend in Starbucks. And then I'm Instagram, Twitter, same thing. Isaiah Stratton's my handle on those. Yeah.
Thank you for coming on, man. We'll have you back on again as you do more projects. And we got to get Justin to come on too in the future. Maybe we could do a Popeye reunion.
Dude, that would be awesome.
And we'll get Joe and Justin, and I've been trying to get him on, and he's like, sometimes he's been like, I don't know if I have anything to say. I'm like, come on, man, you're a storyteller.
Joe or Justin?
Justin.
He has so many things he could talk about. He has so many films.
He's such a great storyteller too. I'd love to have him
he's so good.
All right,
yeah.
Justin.
I have one story real quick if you want to hear.
Yeah, sure.
So going nine white dudes going to the Dominican, and production decided to save a little bit of money. They needed some props sent down, so they would say, well, we'll just check a box of props with each one of you guys as you fly down because it'll be cheaper that way. And the 9 box of props, yes, they're not real, but they're tactical SWAT gear.
Oh no.
So you have 9 white dudes going into customs in the DR with 9 boxes of tactical gear.
Oh no.
So we sat in customs for about an hour and a half. Thank goodness 2 of the guys spoke Spanish in our group. But yeah, we made some new friends in the DR customs department. I'm glad we didn't have to bring them back into the States because I'd be like, no, not going to do it.
Not even deal with it. I had a friend that traveled. Brett McKay from Art of Manliness. He traveled to like a shooting competition or something in Austin from Oklahoma, and I guess he forgot, like one of the bullets like fell to the bottom of his bag that he missed, and he was held over for like hours. So I can imagine if that's just one little bullet without a gun in a backpack.
Oh yeah,
with a bunch of fake stuff.
I have a hard enough time trying to get barbecue sauce out of Kansas City, so it's
barbecue bomb.
Yeah,
that's just because they're Texas people, and they're like, this is not real barbecue. You can't take this out of here.
Texas,
You need
Tennessee.
to mail that home, man. Mail that home. Don't try to get that on a plane.
All right. Well, thanks again, man. And we'll talk to you later.
Awesome, guys. Thanks.
Hey, this part of the show is brought to you by Phoenix Shaving. If you like to shave, and you are a man or a woman, I mean, some women are hairy. That's all right. That's okay. No judgment. But if you're a guy that likes to shave and appreciates the finer things in life, go to gentlemanscofflaw.com/shave. That link helps support the show, and you could check out some of Douglas Smythe's amazing shaving soaps, aftershave colognes. You'll be blown away at all the stuff he has. Scents for days. He is like the Walter White of artisan soap making. He's got this lab basically there in Phoenix, Arizona, where he creates his soaps and he cures them. It's an independent business. You're not giving your money to all those guys that are ripping everybody off with razors. Right now, you can get some wet shaving starter packs. So it has everything you need to get started wet shaving. You can get sets that have the safety razor, the brush, the soap, the aftershave, tons of great scents to pick from. I've mentioned before, one of my favorites is Tombstone. Also, they have Sundown, which is like a classic barbershop scent. They've got Cavendish, which smells like pipe tobacco, which is amazing. I tell you, I've been using the stuff, and I don't get any razor burn or razor bumps anymore. This stuff is amazing, especially the aftershave. It just removes all irritation, bumps, redness. It's like I've never looked so dapper in my life, and that's thanks to Phoenix Shaving. So go to gentlemanscofflaw.com/shave and stop being a slave to the cartridge razor shave. All right. A great interview with Isaiah Stratton. We'll have to have him come back on when he doesn't have to talk so veiled about the project, right?
Yeah, I know. I'm really interested actually to hear about
I think
who he's been rubbing elbows with.
Oh, elbows. Yeah, elbows.
Yeah.
Let's we're gonna do another giveaway this week. You know what we're going to give away? We're going to give away something. Well, I say we're collaborating with Phoenix Shaving to give away an aftershave and cologne from Phoenix Shaving. This week we're giving away, what are we giving away, Donovan?
We are giving away Sundown aftershave cologne from our friends over at Phoenix Shaving.
Phoenix Shaving, yeah.
And
good thing you remembered the sponsor's name.
I saw, I got thrown off. There's Crown King at the top of this.
Yeah, Crown King is like their premium line.
Yeah. But I will tell you, this has been when they sent us those samples, I took that bottle and I've been using that shaving cream and or the lather and this aftershave, and I love it. It's like, it reminds me of I don't know why. It's like it's cool because when you splash it on, it does, the scents take you back to something. Yeah. And with this, it takes me back to Boy Scout camp for some reason.
Oh, really?
Which was, of course, always a great time. And also like that baseball bubble gum that I used to chew in the dugouts of summer baseball. So it's a very summery feel.
Talking about Big League Chew?
Not Big League Chew. It's more like Double Bubble.
Double bubble. I can see that.
And I think that's more of a personal thing. I don't think everybody's going to get that bubble gum thing.
It's like a top note. Is that what they say?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, but I feel good after I splash it on. I actually just started shaving again this last weekend after a long hiatus. Yeah, and it felt pretty freaking good to use their product.
I like the way because it really cools the skin when you use these aftershaves. For sure. It's got you've heard the ads, but it's got alum and menthol, which makes it cool. And I don't know about you, I don't get any razor bumps at all with after you use it. I put that on afterwards. Yeah. No issue.
No, it's a smooth ride.
What's another way they can support the show, John?
Well, we have some awesome merch. Merch is short for merchandise.
What kind of merch?
We have a lot of stuff. I think my favorite is the Gentleman Scofflaw drinking glass, because when you open your cupboard and you got a nice row of 6 of these things all lined up.
Yeah.
How nice would that be with the Scofflaw logo on it?
They are.
I say very.
Exactly.
And you know what? You know what's cool about those is they're designed to have beer poured in them so that they match the logo. So when you pour your beer in them, the background is the same color as our logo background, and it shows up against them. Yeah, it's a pretty cool little thing.
Very scientific.
So you can have your morning coffee in the Scofflaw mug, and your afternoon cocktail in the Scofflaw drinking glass, and your daytime pick me up in the Gentleman Scofflaw flask.
Exactly.
There you go. Or take it to the movie theater.
Nothing says Scofflaw. Thank you for that reference. Gosh, everybody's referencing everything from me this episode. Just all callbacks. Lazy as hell. But I'll tell you what, nothing's a Scofflaw like a flask, though. I mean, there is something about it. Like, I've been in a bar before, and I'll get a Coke, and then everybody's like, oh, what cheapskate is getting a Coke? And then I just whip out a flask, and I just start pouring all the contents of it into this Coke, and they're like, oh, okay. This guy knows how to...
And they haul you out in handcuffs.
This guy knows how to...
Max Fisher leaving the high school.
How to cheat the system.
I feel like I'd be the guy ordering a cranberry juice. And then,
I've seen that. What was the other movie I saw that in? I know The Departed. He orders a it's Hot Fuzz. He always orders a cranberry juice. I guess that's the official drink of Squares.
My friend who's been on the show, Zach Anner, I went to a concert with him this week. He always orders a Shirley Temple.
Shirley Temple is a classic drink, but But does he order it as a Shirley Temple, or does he order it as a Roy Rogers?
It's Shirley Temple.
Okay.
And I'm always jealous. I'm sitting there with a beer and he's got a Shirley Temple, and I'm like, I should have gone with the Shirley Temple.
Shirley Temple is a flippin' tasty drink. My sister, I remember when I was younger, my sisters would always be going to bartenders at weddings and be like, can I have a Shirley Temple? And I'd be like, can I have a Roy Rogers? And he'd be like, what's that? And I'd be like, a Shirley Temple.
I thought you were going to say Roy Rogers was like a Shirley Temple with alcohol in it.
No. Roy Rogers is just the masculine way of ordering a Shirley Temple, but nobody knows what that is. Okay,
so it's for gentlemen that don't want to swallow their pride. It's under attack.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways.
Well, that is it for this episode, guys. John, you are a gentleman and a scofflaw, my friend.
You guys, to
Donovan, you are a gentleman and a scofflaw, friend.
And ditto.
All right. You guys have a great week and enjoy this little ditty by the Poor Man.
This has been the Gentleman's Scofflaw Podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher. Visit us on the interwebs at gentlemanscofflaw.com.
Captain says his ice on the river. We ain't getting home if we don't break through. So damn cold, I can't help but shiver. Rise and shine, we got work to do. Hey!